Nobody's reading fantasy like it's actually smart. And it is. Fantasy isn't the genre you read despite being smart, it's the genre you read because you are. The book community seems to have this obsession with cozy corners loaded with pastel pillows, fluffy blankets, and the latest cupcake candle release burning next to the TBR cart. You see, the books we're actually reading in the fantasy genre do not match this light academia aesthetic. High fantasy is built on augmented worlds, characters full of existential dread, political intrigue, and mysticism. Today we're stepping out of the stereotype. Let's talk about why we need to start reading fantasy with more of a philosophical lens. Hi, I'm Cassandra, and I have spent years hiding my reading life because it didn't fit in with a social mold. When I painted this room black and installed my all black bookshelves and displayed vintage treasures, I noticed a shift happened. I realized when my surroundings matched what I felt like on the inside, I began to start looking at fantasy stories as art history, and everything changed for me. Take a well-known series like A Court of Thorns and Roses. On the surface, the algorithm tells you, quote, masterfully blends epic high-stakes fantasy world building with heavy emphasis on romantic, emotional relationships, and passion. And that's directly from Google. But if we apply a philosophical lens, specifically from the perspective of Jean Paul Sarte and his concept of we are condemned to be free, suddenly the main character isn't just going about their day playing around with magic and falling in love with the person who they spend the most time with. The characters are breaking away from generational societal expectations and systemic failure. They are choosing to exist on their own self-built plane of life. Their way of being condemned to be free, according to Sarte, is to be in a suspension state of choice. And we as the readers get to follow them as they journey through this plane. Because high fantasy involves sometimes massive high stakes, every few weeks I gotta break it up. I don't read contemporary fiction. I deep dive into art criticism, 20th century philosophy, with classical literature sprinkled in, just for funsies. These subjects completely cleanse my brain. When I step away from magic systems for a week or two and then step back into the fantasy world building suddenly looks very different. For example, architectural details appear. What people are wearing suddenly have socioeconomic and practicality statements. There's also the underlying critique of society in which all characters are defined by in some manner. So if you are tired of the same 3 book recommendations wrapped up in the same packaged paper, I want to invite you to stay a while. We are building a space here for people who love high fantasy, but also appreciate design, philosophy, and the refined edge.